September 13th, 1946, a town square in Czechoslovakia. Thousands of people stand shoulder to shoulder, watching. A young woman is being dragged toward a wooden pole. She's screaming, not because she's innocent, but because she knows exactly what she did. And so does everyone standing in that crowd. They came to watch her die. And what's about to happen isn't just justice, it's a reckoning. Her name was Herta Kasparova. She was 23 years old. During World War II, this woman became something unrecognizable. She didn't just work for the Nazis, she used them. She used them to settle old scores, to punish people who hurt her feelings years ago. And by the time the war ended, 11 men were dead because of her. Innocent men, men she grew up with. Today, we're stepping into the story to uncover the dark reason this female Nazi traitor was publicly pole-hanged and why her story still haunts the town where she died. But before we go any further, subscribe to support the channel. Herta Kasparova was born on June 21, 1923, in Třešť, a small town in what was then Czechoslovakia. Her father worked on the railway. Her mother was German, and from the day she was born, Herta's life was shaped by something she couldn't control. She was born with a clubfoot. After surgery, her right leg was thinner, weaker. She walked with a limp. And in the schoolyard, that made her a target. Kids can be cruel. We all know that. But what Herta endured wasn't just teasing. It was relentless. Day after day, year after year, she was mocked for the way she walked. According to people who knew her, she was actually kind-hearted and attractive. She played with the other kids. She tried to fit in. But the limp always marked her as different. And here's the thing about pain like that. It doesn't just go away. It sits inside you. Then, in 1938, everything changed. Adolf Hitler's Germany began tearing Czechoslovakia apart. First came the Munich Agreement, which handed over the Sudetenland to Nazi control. Herta's father, Alois, suddenly stopped calling himself Czech. In March 1939, he joined the Nazi Party, right as German troops marched into the rest of the country. Czechoslovakia became the protectorate of Bohemia and Moravia, a puppet state. The Nazis didn't just occupy it, they crushed it. Reinhard Heydrich, one of the most brutal men in the SS, was sent to run the place. Public hangings, mass arrests, concentration camps. Fear became the language of daily life. But for Herta, the occupation brought something unexpected. Opportunity. In February 1942, Herta got a job. She was 18 years old. Her brother worked for the criminal police in Jihlava, about 10 miles from home, and he got her in. Officially, she was assigned to the card index department, filing cases, recording names, boring work, safe work. But that's not what she ended up doing. Herta spoke fluent German. Her mother had taught her, and in Nazi-occupied Czechoslovakia, that skill made her valuable. The Gestapo needed translators, people who could bridge the gap between terrified Czech prisoners and their German interrogators. So that's what Herta became, a translator, an assistant. She stood in rooms where Czech resistance fighters were beaten, where they were tortured for information, and Herta calmly translated their answers. She documented everything, names, confessions, locations. Her work wasn't passive. The information she helped extract led directly to executions. People were dragged out and shot because of what she wrote down. Others were sent to concentration camps and never came back. But here's what's chilling. Herta didn't just participate. She volunteered information. She reported people on her own, anyone she suspected of resisting, anyone who spoke against the regime. She turned them in. And as the war dragged on, something in her shifted. She started walking around with SS officers. She felt important, powerful. For the first time in her life, she wasn't the girl with the limp. She was someone people feared. By 1945, the war was ending. The Nazis were losing. The Red Army was closing in from the east, the Allies from the west, and people like Herta, collaborators, knew their time was running out. The Czech resistance was getting bolder. They were preparing for the moment the Germans left, and they were making lists of their own. One day, Herta's house was ransacked. Armed Czech resistance fighters broke in, looted the place, smashed everything. It was a message, a warning. Herta was furious, humiliated, and she did something that sealed her fate. She went to the German authorities and gave them 11 names. She said these men were responsible for the attack. She said they were resistance fighters, enemies of the Reich. But that wasn't the whole truth. Some of those men were her former classmates, the same boys who had bullied her in school. This wasn't about protecting Germany. This was personal. All 11 men were executed, lined up against a wall and shot. Their families were left with nothing but grief and questions. And Herta? She didn't lose a single night of sleep. When the war ended in May 1945, Czechoslovakia exploded. Germans were dragged from their homes. Some were beaten in the streets. Collaborators were hunted down like animals. Herta knew she had to run, so she fled to Austria. She got a job as a housemaid in Gmund. Later, she worked in a kitchen for Soviet officers. She kept her head down, changed her story, tried to disappear. But in February 1946, someone recognized her. She was arrested, brought back to Czechoslovakia in handcuffs, and on August 19, 1946, she stood trial in Traitor, the same town where she grew up, the same town she betrayed. The courtroom was packed. People wanted to see her face, wanted to hear what she had to say for herself. Herta tried to defend herself. She claimed she didn't know those 11 men would be killed. She said she was just doing her job, just following orders. But the evidence was overwhelming. Witnesses testified, documents were presented. Her own words came back to haunt her. At one point during the trial, Herta admitted it. She said, and I quote, "I know that I caused the death of several people. I acted out of revenge." The court didn't deliberate long. Herta Kasparova was sentenced to death for high treason and collaboration with the enemy. But this wasn't going to be a quiet execution. This was going to be public, and it was going to be brutal. September the 13th, 1946. The town of Traitor prepared for something it had never seen before. Thousands gathered in the square. So many people wanted to witness the execution that tickets were sold. School children were brought by their teachers to watch. This wasn't just punishment, this was a message. At 6:30 in the evening, Herta was led out. Her hands were already tied, and the moment she saw the wooden pole standing in the center of the square, she broke. The execution method was pole hanging, one of the most feared methods ever used in Central Europe. It wasn't a quick drop and a broken neck. It was slow, visible, designed to be seen. Here's how it worked. The condemned person was hoisted up the pole, using a chest sling under their arms. Their hands and feet were bound tight. A noose was placed around their neck. Then, when everything was ready, the chest sling was released. The body dropped, but only a few feet. An assistant guided the fall with a rope tied to the feet, and the executioner, standing on a small platform behind the condemned, grabbed their jaw and forced their head violently to one side, trying to dislocate the neck. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Herta was secured to the pole. The noose tightened around her neck. The crowd went silent, and then the signal was given, the sling released. Herta dropped. The executioner wrenched her head to the side. The crowd watched every second of it. Finally, doctors stepped forward and confirmed her death. Herta's body was cut down, placed in a plain coffin, and buried nearby. So what's the dark reason this female Nazi traitor was publicly pole-hanged? It wasn't just because she worked for the Gestapo. It wasn't just because she translated during interrogations or sent people to their deaths. It was because she weaponized her pain. She took the bullying she suffered as a child and twisted it into something monstrous. She used the power of the Nazi occupation to get revenge on boys who teased her in school, and 11 innocent men died because of it. Her execution was public because the people of Traitor wanted everyone to see what happens when you betray your own, when you use evil to settle personal scores, when you let bitterness consume you so completely that you become the very thing that hurt you. Herta Kasparova's story isn't just about World War II, it's a warning about what happens when we let our wounds define us, when we choose revenge over healing, when we forget that power without conscience is just cruelty with a title. This is the Darkroom Archive. If you made it this far, drop a comment. Let us know what you think. Was her execution justice or something darker? Subscribe for more untold stories. I'll see you in the next one.